let's talk about this image. This is an alchemical. This is what you would call a tracing board or an emblem or a mandala, if you like. So to the uninitiated, this image appears to be some sort of magical emblem. For many people, anything with mysterious and unknown symbols may be associated with black magic or Satanism. The Catholic Church has a long history of condemning such imagery as witchcraft or devil worship, punishing those amongst the flock whom dare explore this area of occult knowledge. Subsequently, this is the reaction among many, regardless of their religious beliefs or lack thereof. The main reason the Catholic Church doesn't want you looking into this stuff, or didn't want people looking into it historically over the centuries, especially when the Vatican was the seat of power in Europe and in the various empires of the West, is because if you learn this on your own, you go, oh wow, I've realized the God nature within myself. I'm in touch directly with God, so what do I need you for? What do I need this middleman with the funny hat for? And it also gives away the show of the Catholic Church in that their source of knowledge, of esoteric knowledge, comes from the same place that occult study offers the students, right? Same place, guys. Same exact place. They just don't want you to know that. That's why they say it's evil and Satan and all that stuff. The occult is a neutral body of knowledge. It depends on what you do with it. If you choose to do ill with it, that's your choice, but it will come back to you, and it will ultimately destroy you. If you choose to use it for good, if you are a light worker and you choose to use it in love and light, then you will reap what you sow, right? It has nothing to do with evil or Satanism or anything like that. A lot of people love that they're in love with that mystique of the occult. And they want the power, and they want the, and all that stuff. There's a lot of people like that, right? They are very low on the, they're very low in their growth of what it means to truly know what occult wisdom is, right? But they're on their path, and that's okay. It's part of the growing process, right? So, occult wisdom contains the same foundational teachings of the church, and in fact is the source of all religious knowledge in the first place around the world. So occult symbolism of spiritual alchemy represents an attempt to provide a map of the inner dimensions of the self. This is what we're looking at with this image. So it may manifest in the outer world of forms. In other words, this image we see here attempts to describe the inward process of alchemy. There's an outer alchemy, an outer world, or exoteric alchemy, and an esoteric, the inner world. We're talking about the inner world, of course, the world of spirit. So this emblem before us can only scratch the surface of alchemy. This, for all intents and purposes, is lifeless and dead as we're looking at it, right? In comparison to the actual practice of alchemy, this image is really nothing. Such is the nature of all representational manifestations, especially to those that don't know what they're looking at. The map hardly resembles the actual landscape at all, in fact. So, however paltry, we must start somewhere. So this is how I've chosen to describe the alchemy of Silent Hill 2. This illustration was created, or actually this illustration was created by a German alchemist known as Johann Tolde. And he was using the pseudonym Basil Valentine. This illustration appears in the book Azoth of the Philosophers, published in 1659. This emblem was created much earlier. People used pseudonyms back then so that they wouldn't be burned at the stake. Very dangerous to have this. If you were running around with this somewhere in 16th or 15th, 16th century Europe, yeah, you would be very careful who sees that. So its intended use is presumably that of a mandala or tracing board, which is a term used in Freemasonry. Its purpose is that of a teaching tool for adepts of occult study to reflect upon the deep meaning it holds. The one studying this emblem must focus their gaze into the center of this image, as if they're looking into a mirror. In the broadest sense, this image represents the alchemical wedding, or the unity of the opposing energies of masculine and feminine, right? Sex and death, the theme of Silent Hill 2, right? We discussed the rungs of the alchemical ladder throughout this presentation. However, this is an oversimplification, as alchemy of the spirit is very much interconnected and non-linear. It's a non-linear journey of the inner dimensions of spirit, which is to say that the stages of the alchemical process may occur psychologically in any of these orders, in any order. We went through the first rung all the way in order, lowest to highest, during the presentation. But psychologically, this can happen in any order. After all, each step is integrally dependent upon each other. However, attainment of the higher self does not mean the aspects of the lower self cease to exist. To the contrary. Instead, these lower aspects of the self are incorporated in such a way as to form the supporting structure of the higher self. This is the very same pattern of evolution which describes the three parts of the human brain: the R complex, the basal ganglia, which is the first and present part in all vertebrates. Next is the limbic brain, which is on top of that, which all mammals share. And finally, the neocortex, which is present in mammals, but mostly highly developed only in humans and a couple species of dolphins, which is right here. So it's one is built upon the other. Just like atoms are the building blocks of molecules, right? And molecules are the building blocks of elements, and so forth. The lesser combines to form the greater, or it supports the greater. Similar to is the process of spiritual alchemy. That is to say, the higher form transcends the lower, but must include that which came before, right? So you don't just throw the lower parts or the lesser self away. You need those. They got you to the dance. They got you to a certain point. It's like going up steps, right? The higher the form, so the higher form transcends, but includes the lesser. This is known as a holarchy, as opposed to being a hierarchy, because hierarchy ranks one above the other, right? Doesn't really describe it accurately. It's more of a holarchy. This is a term coined by Arthur Koestler, the author of Ghost in the Machine. So in this alchemical image, each of the four corners outside of the circle represent the elements of the external physical world. Fire in the upper left, air in the upper right, water in the lower right, and earth in the lower left. The feminine elements are on the right, as evidenced by the queen, the fish, and the moon. The masculine elements are on the left, as evidenced by the king, the lion, and the sun. The character in the middle is the metaphysical representation of balance or harmony of the opposing energies of masculine and feminine, right? It's the embodiment, or it's the place right in between. It's harmony. The character in the middle has each appendage touching one of the four elements. Look at his hands. His right hand is touching the fire. Left hand has water. The left foot is stepping in the water. The right foot is on the ground, right? And notice that both hands are actually also simultaneously in the air. There are three triangles on this outer circle, okay? Spiritus in the upper right, that's the ethereal or worldly essence. That's aligned with the feminine. The corpus, which is the one on the bottom, right? The upside down triangle. This is the body or the physical. And the anima, the inner being or soul in the upper left. Jung, of course, describes the anima as the feminine energy within the masculine heart. The anima is male, spirit is female, and the corpus is the child or union of both anima and spirit, the coming together of masculine and feminine, or sex and death, right? The embodiment of this. This could also be described as the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, or thought, emotion, and action, or power, wisdom, and love of the Trimurti, if you like. There's many ways, many ways to skew this, right? But essentially, this represents, these three triangles represent the threefold aspect of human beings, because really all you are is your thoughts, emotions, and actions, right? And you want these lined up. You want to line up your thoughts, emotions, and actions. So if you think one way, you feel another way, but you do something else, you are fragmented, right? So this pattern of three keeps coming up in Silent Hill 2, and James Sunderland must reconcile the three to become one, right? This is the Trinity. This is thought, emotion, and action. This is Anima, Spiritus, and Corpus. This is what James Sunderland constantly is trying to unify through the music puzzle, through the coin puzzle, through the tablets. There are 3, 3, 3, right? He passes through the door, the lady in the door. There's 3 ladies in the door. There's so many symbols of this thought, emotion, and action aligning up, unifying them, right? He's atoning this at one minute, This keeps happening over and over in Silent Hill 2. Go and play through the game again and you'll see how many times, right? I probably haven't even noticed all of the times that this ceremony is happening. So it is the divine feminine energy which fuels the male anima, allowing the sun to shine brightly. It is the masculine light from the sun which shines upon and reflects from the moon, the Spiritus, which again leads back to the feminine. It is both of these energies which join together in the corpus or body. There's a lot going on with this image. Notice the downward facing triangles, both big and small. This is the archetypal symbol of the feminine, right? Now, look how Anima, Spiritus, and Corpus form one big, giant, downward-facing triangle, right? This is the archetypal symbol of the feminine. Attunement of the self is a core feminine energy. When you're tuning into yourself, right? That's a feminine quality, right? Anima, and that's why the upside down, that's why the triangle's upside down. Anima is the essence of the masculine energy. Spiritus is the essence of the feminine. Corpus is the place where both worlds find harmony. So look at that. They're joined together and they're embodied in the corpus. The 7 points coming from the center of the circle. Now let's really get into this, okay? I've explained the exoteric or the outside world symbolism, and I'll explain a little bit more of it, but let's go inside the circle. So the 7 points coming from the center of the circle represent, of course, the 7 steps of alchemy that James Sunderland goes through in Silent Hill 2. The head of a man in the middle denotes that this is primarily an operation of the psyche, right? Look at these points. They're all emanating from the head of this man, from his psyche. This is the work that James Sunderland does through his journey in the story, right? So each arm of the 7 pointed stars respectively numbered, right? And it starts here, right? This is Saturn. This is lead. The metal is lead here. This starts 1, 2, 3, 4. It kind of goes all the way around, right? Clockwise. So these are all respectively numbered. They bear the mark of the planet and its associated metal. So each symbol, of course, is a planet. This is the moon. This is Venus. Of course, copper is green. That symbolism's in the game as well. This is the symbol of Mars. This is Saturn. This is Mercury. This is Jupiter, right? So notice how each of the 7 points extend a little beyond the circle. This demonstrates the interconnected nature between the inner and outer worlds, right? This also hints at something called the non-dual nature of reality. That's something I can go into on a totally different, we just don't have time to do this to get into that, but I'm happy to do another presentation about non-duality at some point. So it is said that meditating on this image long enough will reveal a hidden 8th ray, right? Remember the 8th step of alchemy I was talking about? I'll reveal what that is here in a moment. So each round panel between the arms, look at these panels here. Right, there's a bird here on this skull, and there's a bird on top of the water. So each round panel between the arms of the 7-pointed star illustrate that particular operation of the alchemical process, right? Starting with calcination, dissolution, and all the rest. Notice the salt cube or lower self at the bottom with the arm of Saturn forming the 6th point. Look at this. See, this star's coming down. It's forming the 6th point. This is very significant. The 5 points for man, right? You've seen that Da Vinci drawing. Da Vinci, by the way, he was a student of the mystery schools. He was an esoteric. He was a graduate of the esoteric order, of one esoteric order. So 5 points of man are these stars. This is what represents the body of man, right? But the 6th point is the higher self, beyond the body and the mind. This is the psyche. This is the spirit, right? The wings at the very top represent the tip or the very top of the caduceus or the staff of Hermes. This is the uppermost part or the crown chakra of energy flowing up through the human body. The staff of Hermes or the caduceus shows this winding energy of masculine and feminine and this journey of the 7 steps to the crown chakra, right? The dragon in the lower left, see the dragon underneath the lion, underneath the king's feet. The dragon in the lower left is the ego, and it will stay under the feet of the king so long as his arrogance stays in check. The fire salamander in the upper left corner, did you notice him? Just above the anima? This is symbolic for the underlying force which causes the flame to exist at all in the first place. It is the masculine maintaining this force. It is a masculine force, essentially. It is this Shiva, this underlayment, this eternal void, this force somehow, and it's aligned with the masculine. The fire salamander is associated with fire because it seeks out these warm places. It's a very interesting looking creature, and it thrives. It seems to thrive in the fire. It's very interesting. The bird above Spiritus on the right, this bird seeks the coolness of the moon and the feminine, maintains this force, right? These opposing energies are really just one, though, of course. So the words, let's talk about these words on the outer circle. This is where it gets really interesting, you guys. So the words on the outer circle signify the 7 alchemical operations, starting with the step to the left. I will read them in order starting from Saturn. Visita, which is to visit. Interiora, interior or inner. Terra, of course, is earth. Rectificando is straight. Inuenus is discover. Occultum means hidden. And lapitum is stone. And if you spell these out, this spells vitriol. Vitriol is the volatile liquid fire substance used in alchemy, which drives the entire transformation process from start to finish. So this statement this, if you translate all of these words and you put them together, it says, visit the innermost parts of earth, set things right, you will find the hidden stone. This is the Philosopher's Stone, of course, right? The Philosopher's Stone is the eighth stone, or is the eighth ray, as it were. So there's also a final secret step in the alchemical process, an eighth step, which is unseen yet alluded to by the wings at the top. Just as there are 8 octaves in music, and the fundamental nature of reality is vibration, the eighth step is akin to the musical scale, which is harmony. The transcendence and includence of all 7 steps, plus the eighth step of harmony, culminating into the higher self. The eighth ray, of course, is the alchemist himself. Once he is in harmony, once he is once he is balanced within the feminine and masculine energies within himself, he becomes that eighth ray. He is the Philosopher's Stone.